have begun.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Shahzad Hussain and I live at 20 Primary Way, which is at the bottom of the street here. Today is the 5th of October 2023 and it's now been exactly 59 days that my brother Talib has been abducted from my care by the authorities, and they are holding him at hostage and ransom, refusing me any kind of information to his whereabouts. They have instructed the police to come and arrest him from my home on false trump charges that I was neglecting him, and then proceeded to put bail conditions on me where I can no longer see my brother, and as a consequence of which I am now making daily vlogs about my situation and circumstances, looking to expose and whistleblow on the authorities. And this hence why I don't believe privacy is an issue of value anymore. And you know, as I read and as I've become more informed about the world, I think everyone's privacy is being undermined by changes in technology and advancements in AI technology and 5G technology, and the ability to control and manipulate information. So I don't think anybody has a right to privacy. All I'm doing is just simply making it open, because the right to privacy is only relevant if you're alive. If somebody's going to imprison you or kill you off, what right do you have to privacy? What right does my mother now have to privacy when she's been murdered by the state? So as I was stating yesterday, I had highlighted some of the family members involved in this joint enterprise. I don't like to use the word conspiracy, but a collusion, should I say, of everybody working together collectively to the betterment of the local authority and to the detriment of me and my family situation. So I had mentioned all the major players so far as the people involved. And what I would like to discuss today is, in any kind of situation, you need to set the stage or the scenario or the scene, and there need to be actors involved in any kind of enterprise. And my argument that this enterprise is a joint enterprise of murder, so anybody that's a professional who can be involved, who can have a relationship with the local authority, is being involved and manipulated. And the way they do it is, I think there's a terminology that's been used in espionage. It's called fifth column. So what they do is they set up their own individual in an organization or a country that is their operative or spy to spy and work in the interest of the malevolent agency. And in this case, they have used, no doubt they either use the Milgram effect to get compliance from other organizations, stating that we're the authorities or we're the police, so you must comply to the law which we police over and regulate. Or alternatively, they set up malevolent individuals and bribe them with money. I know that's to be the case because they were buying my services off. And I haven't just ended up here. I'm not just some person at the arm's reach of the local authority. I was embedded within the local authority. I was at one time the golden boy, because they were looking to roll out this direct payment scheme in regard to social care, and they had looked to use me as a poster boy, and I was compliant with them. It's only as a result of their failure to advance or their failure to recognize myself fully, and over time they forget, and it's due to their incompetence as well, that our relationship became strained. But the relationship, let's just talk about the time frame then. Let's look at what time frame we're talking about here, because we're not just talking about in the last year or 2 years. We're not talking about in the last 5 years or the decade, last decade, up to 2023 today. So we're not talking in the last in 2013. We're not even talking about 2 decades, which would take it back to 2003. We're not talking about even 2 decades would take it back to 2003, 3 decades would take it back to 1993, and 4 decades would take it back to 1983. And that is the year that the time spans of this enterprise has taken place. This how they did it. It was not just a small time frame, it was a very long time frame that they taken. Because in 1983, my eldest brother Nazim suffered a mental trauma and became subjected to the Mental Health Act and mental health professionals in 1983. He had first that was the first trauma of the family. As a result of which, we as a family, all of us became known to the authorities. And when we're saying the authorities, it's the police force, it's the health service, but most importantly, the local authority, Bradford Council. So we as a family are not like any other family who goes about their own daily business, as the only interactions that you have with the local authority is the bin collection or paying your council tax. That's it. That's all involvement that you have. Other than that, to go and vote every year to legitimize this fraud or legitimize their authority. Most people's interactions with the local authority are very limited, whereas our interactions have been, not limited but very prolonged. And it's because one of my eldest brothers, Mr. Nazim Hussain, has been a service user since 1983. It all stems from Nazim's mental illness or mental breakdown was the first trauma that the family suffered. That was the first trauma. The second trauma that the family suffered is Nazim's wife, Sehedabi, died in 1992 of cancer. No malevolence is being placed on her dying of the condition of cancer, but quite clearly surviving her was her husband, my brother, but most importantly 3 children. Those 3 children were Shagufta, Tasveer and Wasim. Those 3 children then were involved in litigation proceedings by our cousin brother Zaid, who lives close by. He's our cousin brother, and he was the brother of Sada. He was Nazim's brother-in-law, our maternal auntie's son. He played a very vital and pivotal role in this whole story back in 1992, because he was instrumental in taking Nazim's children and into his care, and we became estranged from Nazim's children. And when we say we mean my brother Nazim, my mother, and my mother at the time was involved in taking on litigation proceedings in the family courts as a result of this action taken by Zaid. So Nazim, 1983, was suffering from a mental health condition. Sada, his wife, died of cancer. And then we have this outsider agent, which is Zaid, come along, and he was at the time residing not even in the UK, he was residing in Denmark, come over and partake in litigation proceedings that involved obviously the authorities, because somebody needed to be representing Nazim's interest and also the children's interest. And so we as a family ended up in the family courts, the nefarious and infamous family courts, which are still quite malevolent to this day. And you can go on Facebook and you can see how the family courts are utilized by the social services to abduct children. But we as a family have been involved with the family courts since 1992, February 1992, when Seda B, my sister-in-law, and Nazim's wife died of cancer, and the issue regarding Nazim's children was raised by Zaid, who wanted custody of the children, and we ended up having a very lengthy custody battle in the 90s. So that was 3 traumas there. Nazim having a mental breakdown, his wife dying of cancer, and most importantly, where the state came involved, was Zaid's involvement in abducting Nazim's children. So those were the 90s. And then what happened subsequently, I think in 1994, 95, my father, who had been living abroad in Pakistan, came over to live with us. And then subsequently in the year 2000, I graduated. And then 1992 was the first year that I got arrested by the state. 2009 was the year that my father died. And then 2014 was the year that my brother Nazim was murdered. And then 2022 is the year that my mother was murdered. So these are factual evidences in a timeline timeline starts from 1983 to 2023, 40 years. And in that 40 years, it has very different characters and actors, should I say. Most of those actors that have acted with abuse of power and process have been the local authority, who I would argue is the main architect and the main financial beneficiary of our suffering and misery. But also, it has involved the malevolence or recruitment of various family members in order to achieve the narrative. And the victims of this enterprise have obviously been my family, which is my two parents, who have both now been murdered, and both of my brothers who have suffered from schizophrenia that live in Bradford. So there's 4 victims, and they are clearly victims. There's no arguments about that. Both my parents had dementia. My father Ghulam Hussain had dementia. My mother Fateh Begum had dementia. Both my brothers are suffering from schizophrenia. That places a duty of care on the local authority, who have been negating and obfuscating on that duty of care simply because we're probably Asian or Muslims, or for whatever reason. They've been failing upon that. I've been looking to hold them to account to their duty of care, and as a result of which I am being now targeted, victimized equally after representing their best interest. I've been sent to prison falsely, had all my money taken away from me. Recently, my brother, like as I've explained, for the last 59 days has been abducted. I'm being targeted and victimized, and I live in fear of my life. So I just wanted to spend today's on the timeline, and no doubt we'll go over this timeline over and over again about what the little things that have happened within this specific timeline that has resulted in fraud and malevolence and all the actions which have resulted, which I'm now claiming is a triple homicide. Triple homicide consisting of my father's murder in 2009, my brother's clear murder in 2014, and now my mother's murder in 2022. 3 murders, triple homicide, committed over a 40-year timeline, committed by the local authority in collaboration with numerous other agencies and entities and individuals, which I've briefly highlighted. And I think that should be alright for today. I'll leave it here for today. So that's end of session today. Oh yeah, and just one more thing. I'm not suicidal, and I will not be killing myself. If I die, it's as a result of the local authorities' malevolent actions looking to finish me off, to silence me. That's all.